Aussie grain-fed beef quality, fine, fine. Compared to other grains around the world, we don't use as many plant, you could say, plant pesticides compared to the US, which is probably one good thing. It's probably a cost thing because it's imported from overseas, from the US. So it's cheaper in the US, more expensive in Australia, so we use less. Probably the same thing in South America. Probably you guys use less as well for the same reason, cost. You use it just to cover what you need, to keep the insects down and stuff like that, where if it's cheaper, people overuse it. So that's one difference. The other thing is, let's not forget, plants themselves have more chemicals in them than you can poke a stick compared to, and cows have learnt to basically deal with, plant toxins far better than us because they're ruminants. So they've been dealing with them for a long time. So you don't really get this sort of whole thing, oh, you're going to get all these pesticides and all these toxins concentrating in the animal. Nope, you don't, actually, because they've got a very good detox system. They're designed to. We have less of a detox system to deal with plant toxins. They have a fantastic system to deal with plant toxins. So it's less of an issue. And the minor change in fatty acid profile is so minor, it's irrelevant as well, to a large extent. Even if, I've done, remember I showed those pigs that were eating all sorts of things, and the profile between the foraging ones and the other ones. In some cases, the omega-3s were much higher in the grain-fed ones, So there's a lot of factors that are at play. So it's not, all the grain-fed. I know people in the paleo community have used selective research in the past to basically say, oh, look at here. And I'm going, well, that's not indicative of every single herd that's actually in the world. Let's take a look at a good spread of many herds around the world, and you'll see varied levels. Shelley's at the house. Okay, Shelley, there'll be many varied levels out there in terms of a number of these things. So, nah, I don't buy that, MD. Obviously, an animal that is grass fed is going to have, a certain, you'll actually get more fat soluble vitamins. That's a definite, slightly higher in the fats. You get more carotenoids as long as you can convert them in the fat as well. That's why it's yellowy like that. Also, the omega-3s will be slightly higher, but not necessarily always, depending on what specific grasses. There are certain grasses that have got more, that can concentrate more, DHA EPA compared to others. So it depends on what grasses it's consuming as well and which region. And also the profile of minerals can be very different as well, depending on what it's actually eating and where that was grown and what the grass mineral levels are. So if you go into a, let's say, lowlands area, the mineral quantity in the meat is going to be lower. If you go into a mountainous area like goats and stuff like that are in mountains, or in Australia, Tasmania, for instance, got this highlands, the Central Plateau, the Central Highlands, as it's called, which is one of the biggest municipalities in Tasmania. That area, there's a lot of ruminant animals, both sheep and cattle. And the nice thing about it is those will have much higher mineral levels compared to any other source, including King Island as well, which is another place there that's got very hardy type grasses plus a lot of minerals on it as an island. And so those sort of areas have good micronutrient profile there, ruminant meat. So there's so many factors that I usually say to people, if you're eating grain fed and that's all you can afford, it's going to be a hell of a lot better than the kibble anytime in terms of micronutrient profile and all that. And the great thing about animals that actually have got good detox capabilities dealing with plant compounds, they will actually have much lower. That's why we don't find high residues or high levels of pesticides or stuff like that in grain-fed animals, for the simple reason they're very good at detoxifying that stuff. That's the great thing about them. So yeah, there's a lot of nonsense being spewed out there. So it'll definitely be better than kibble, but obviously if you can get better quality, yeah, always the best, because you're going to get, we're talking about 5, 10 or 15% a bit better, but that 5, 10 and 15% is going to be pricey as well. So it's a balance, especially for people's budgets. If you can afford it, you got plenty of this sort of stuff, fine. If you don't, I'd prefer people consuming that than kibble, grain-fed, than kibble crap.